thank you for having me here. I think that last workshop was actually a very appropriate one for me to follow. I want to start out by saying congratulations to Turning Point for the amazing growth and success you have had. Having created conservative groups on 800 college campuses is truly awesome. I appreciate and am thankful for your achievements, and I'm also honored to be here. As you know, the reason for my presence here today is I founded a group for young conservative professionals 6 years ago. I have a confession to make. I'm a tad nervous because I've never spoken to a group this size. So in essence, you're my guinea pigs. How many of you have been raised in a traditional Hispanic household? How many have ever felt isolated or misunderstood in school or in college? We're kindred spirits. How many of you have ever felt like you wanted to do more or make a difference, but you didn't know how? Okay. Well, welcome to my story. I came to this country with my parents when I was 4 years old. My sister was born a few years later. I was born in Mexicali, or Mexicali. For those of you who don't know where that is, Mexicali is the capital of Baja California. And to me, it felt like the hottest place on earth.
It is.
Exactly. It's in Death Valley, so it can get to 120. People actually, I think, cook eggs. You could actually, they've done it where you cook an egg on the hood of your car just for fun, see how it, see it happen. My parents left Mexico with a vision of a bigger and brighter future. We set our new roots in San Diego. As an immigrant raised with traditional values, going through the public school system in a suburb of San Diego called La Jolla, I had no idea the Americans were divided between a political left and right. I just had a feeling of not belonging because I was raised in a conservative home where there was rules, restrictions, and guidelines. And at this point, I didn't realize the alienation I felt was political. I just knew I didn't fit in. What got me through high school was the goal to get to UCLA. And once there, everything would be better, I thought. As you know, there aren't too many conservatives on college campuses here in the United States. What made me fall in love with America was actually my gap year, living in Europe right before college, as a Rotary exchange student. My parents encouraged me to take a year off between high school and college and live in a foreign country. I filled out my college applications while living in Belgium for a year. I had some amazing adventures and loved Europe's art, architecture, culture, and history. Now, while I appreciated all of these things, I was also able for the first time to view America from afar and from a different perspective. And it made me realize how dynamic and special our country is. I was very energized and excited to come back to the US and my dream college, UCLA. College was fun, and rather quickly, I became aware of the political left and right. Can you believe it was until I was 18 years old that I didn't see the world through a political lens? I feel like you guys are way ahead of the game compared to where I was. I remember one specific instance walking across the campus and checking out one of the booths for the college clubs, which is what we've been talking about a lot here. And I noticed the booth for the college Republicans, and I remember thinking to myself, like, that looks like fun. And the friend that I was with, laughed and immediately said a sarcastic comment, like, who would join that club? And it was in that moment that I decided I'm not getting involved. From then on, I decided to have fun, get good grades, and be non-political. I joined the UCLA triathlon team. I was a social chair for my residence hall student government, and I studied abroad again, and this time it was in France. A year after graduating, I met and had drinks with the president and members of the UCLA College Republicans. They were so fun and witty, and we were able to talk about things that were typically not considered appropriate in my other circles. And it was in that moment that I realized what I'd missed all those years. I had missed out on a whole lot of fun and an opportunity to develop some great friendships. After I graduated, I was still non-political. Since I was an art history major, I interned at a museum in Santa Monica. Santa Monica is very similar to Berkeley. It's a bastion of left-wing politics, and so is the art world. I remember that people in the museum I worked at would talk about politics at work every day and would describe conservatives as idiots or as the devil. And that is when I started questioning these gigantic generalizations and the black and white vision of the world they had. I decided to leave the art world, working for a nonprofit, where I would be making $30,000 a year and be fake smiling my way through my career. So art would become a hobby, not my career. After the museum internship, I decided to work in an architecture firm where I found myself in the same situation. Politics were discussed on a regular basis, and again, I found myself very young, outnumbered, and out of place. I quickly learned to zip up my lips and not say anything if I wanted to survive and enjoy work. And survive is really the right term to use for this. But in hindsight, I'm grateful for these experiences because that is when I decided to seek others like myself. I started out by going to a monthly meeting of my local Republican club, which was held at a Denny's in Culver City. All these meetings are usually at Denny's, Sizzlers, and any local diner. But that's where great things start. At the first meeting, I thoroughly enjoyed myself. Finally, I felt at home. I also noticed one interesting thing. Everyone in the room was older than my parents. But I didn't care. I decided I would adopt these people as my grandparents and make the most of it. Then, in the same year, in 2008, I volunteered on the McCain campaign in LA, at the LA headquarters. Out of the 10 candidates, he was my 11th favorite. But I volunteered for the experience. And once again, I noticed everyone was older than my parents. That's when I started to wonder, where are all the young conservatives? In a city of 10 million people, I realized I couldn't possibly be the only one, and I wanted to find a way to meet them. When Republicans lost the election in 2008 to Obama, and I say Republicans lost the election, because not that Obama won, but it was Republicans' election to lose. The only reason I wasn't depressed like everyone else I knew was that I had a vision of starting a group that reached out to young people, making politics fun, sexy, and cool. Just like the left did with MTV and their Get Out to Vote campaigns, making voting and left-wing politics something so hip people wanted to join. I decided to begin by forming a meetup group. Do we all know what meetup is? Yes. Okay. So as some of you may know, it's a social media site where you can find almost any type of group you can imagine. From hiking to tennis, a book club, even a happy hour club. You just put in your zip code and we'll tell you all the local clubs in your area. And I thought to myself, about starting the club, this will be a total success and a total failure. But in my mind, a success would be finding 4 like-minded friends. So my bar was low. But I actually thought that would make me the luckiest person on the planet. Within the first 5 minutes of creating the group, my first member, Tim, joined. I couldn't believe that within 5 minutes, I had my first member. And that's when I knew everything was going to be okay. At the first meeting, there were 2 people and myself who attended. We met at a Panera Bread, a local restaurant in Santa Monica, and those same 2 guys are still on board with me today, 6 years later. That night, we came up with our mission statement and our 4 principles, which if I could shorten into one word would be fun, education, volunteering, and political activity. We put the 4 principles together because fun will bring people out and create community. Then you educate your community. The reason why education, and as you guys know from all of this training, is so important is because we want our members to learn the principles and understand the why behind conservative philosophies. The why is very important. And this is so they feel comfortable and not defenseless when they go out into the world. Then, if you have a tight-knit community and they are more willing to volunteer and are more open to political activity, we decided we would make volunteering our third goal because we wanted to put our principles into practice, which is that the private sector takes better care of people in the community than government. So we volunteered at homeless shelters, beach cleanups, veterans hospitals, and military support centers. And we strategically chose to do homeless shelters and beach cleanups, one because they're great causes, but also we wanted to create cognitive dissonance in the minds of liberals. Because it's like, you're at a beach cleanup in Santa Monica, and they ask you what organization you're with, and then they find out you're conservative, and like, oh, I thought conservatives weren't supposed to care about the environment. So it's just to create that juxtaposition in their mind. The last goal is political activity. Everything prior is a build-up and leads right into this. The reason for this is because once you have a strong foundation of friendships, solidarity of thinking, and a structure, people are more likely willing to get involved politically. Although we always encourage our members to be politically engaged, it is important to introduce activism when and where appropriate. We have volunteered on various campaigns, but this year, what I'm most excited about is our work with Center for Self-Governance. They're, just like Turning Point, they've been around for 3 years, and they're a nonprofit organization out of Tennessee that is re-educating people on civics and on the power we have as citizens. They have proven methods to exercise those powers to keep our government in check and accountable to the people, and have had a 100% success rate at the local level. And they just started in Tennessee and were so popular there that people from other states started asking if they could teach those classes in other states, and 3 years later they're in 24 states. And it was with our group and a few others that they finally started working in California. And they actually even said that we were the youngest group that they, of all the 23 states, we're the youngest group that they have been working with and the most organized, which was flattering and frightening at the same time. That's 23 states. Over the last 6 years, I have learned, keep it social. Young people are drawn in and retained with social activity. Pay attention to being a good host. And this goes very much with the previous workshop. Provide a nurturing and supportive club atmosphere. It's important to be flexible, try new things, and learn what works and what doesn't. A lot of it is trial and error. The key is to be consistent. So what we do, we have 2 events like clockwork every month. And so and then from there on, we actually I end up probably seeing everyone once a week, because that's how close we've become. But there's 2 events that are official on the calendar. And because of that consistency, even when it's not election season, we're active. And that's the key, because a lot of clubs are only active during election season. B, know your people. Identify natural leaders, helpers, and followers. 2, connect and nurture those relationships. So as of today, the 3 friends have turned into 400 friends in LA alone. All with no budget, done with consistency, dedication, and a shared vision. These are all young professionals who give their free time to contribute to the greater cause of preserving our freedoms. Within the last 6 years, people from our group have moved from LA to other cities, including Austin, Denver, New York City, Charlotte, and they have been unable to find a group like ours in those cities. Now, I have to be honest, I don't know if it's because they didn't try hard enough, or because there isn't a group like ours out there. My future vision is to be able to launch our LA group into chapters throughout the country, because there's a need for them everywhere. And the formula is easy to replicate. You just need to make it fun, and they will come. We have an important election coming up next year and a half. In the next year and a half. I would love to see a wave of conservatism develop from the ground up and redirect our country to make sure it continues to be the shining city on the hill. The two takeaways I would like to leave you with are, 1, never underestimate your ability to influence things. One of the most influential books in my life has been The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. If you haven't read it, I really recommend you do. I would say this book was as valuable as my entire college education, and it was $25. In the book, Covey distinguishes between our circle of influence, which is our behavior, our thoughts, habits, and relationships, and our circle of concern, those things which we have no control over. For example, the rise of ISIS in the Middle East. Covey encourages us to focus on our circle of influence, because the more we do so, the greater our circle of influence will increase. This is also known as the law of attraction. This is the reason I fought the feelings of being alone and isolated by focusing on the things I could do something about. And out of that, a 400-member organization was born. John Sullivan, the director of the film 2016 Obama's America, is a great example of also getting things done. I had the opportunity to attend a speech by Sullivan a few weeks ago. He said that people are always asking him, how do I make a difference? How do I get involved? He explained that he did the entire marketing campaign for this big budget movie from his laptop at a coffee shop. So never underestimate the power of the individual with a clear vision. As you enter the working world, I would love to encourage you to keep up the enthusiasm, passion, and momentum you've developed in college. I have noticed that when a lot of college Republicans or conservatives graduate, they lose interest in staying involved politically. They get caught up in climbing the ladder of their career and having fun. And I'm here to tell you, it's possible to be a successful professional, have fun in your 20s and 30s, and be politically involved. I believe it is the responsibility of all of us to be involved at all stages of our lives. We just need to care and get creative. As the saying goes, the price of liberty is lifelong vigilance. So thank you again to Turning Point for inviting me here. I've had so much fun just hearing all of your stories and talking to you guys. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. So, thank you.